Hi guys, welcome to this video on balancing equations, where we're going to be looking at displacement reactions. There are two types of displacement reactions you need to be able to do. The first one being halide displacement reactions, and the second one being precipitate displacement reactions. What you need to do is choose one of the two videos, click on them and have a go at them. As soon as you've watched the videos, come back to this point and have a go at the apply, check and review sections, which are coming up straight after this. Okay, time for you guys to have a go then. So we have 4 questions here, 2 which are normal difficulty and 2 which are challenging. And both of those have got one question which is to do with displacement reactions and one to do with halogen displacement reactions. So question 1 says iron sulphate FeSO4 reacts with sodium hydroxide to form iron hydroxide FeOH2 and sodium sulphate Na2SO4. Question 2 is chlorine is added to potassium iodide Ki to form potassium chloride KCl and iodine. So for both of those, write the balanced equation for the displacement reactions. Then in your challenge ones, you have write the balanced chemical equation for the displacement reaction between magnesium chloride and sodium hydroxide. So you'll have to go back to the scratch there and figure out the charges of the ions and actually work out the formula before you can do the balancing. Same with question 2, which is fluorine is added to potassium chloride KCl. You'll need to work out what is formed and work out what the formulas are before you do the balancing. So have a go at question 1 and 2, and if you're up for the challenge, have a go at those as well. We'll see how you've done in a min. Right, let's have a look then. So we'll start off with question 1, which is iron sulphate, FeSO4, reacts with sodium hydroxide. Now that's one of the ones that you're expected to know from scratch, so they may not give you that in the exam, which is NaOH. So learn that sodium hydroxide is NaOH. And it forms iron hydroxide. They've given you that as FeOH2, and then sodium sulphate, which they've also given you as Na2SO4. So your next job is to count up how much we've got. So Fe, we have 1 iron, S, we have 1, and then we've got 4 oxygens, but we've also got another 1 over here, so that's 4 plus 1 is 5. We've then got 1 Na and 1 H. On the right hand side we have 1 Fe, then we have 2 oxygens plus our 4 from over here, so we have 6. We have 2 hydrogens, 2 sodiums and 1 sulphur, leaving you with a table looking like that. Remember to set out, if you've got elements that have got the same in different parts from your reactants, to put them separately so you can see where they came from. So where do we go from here? Now this one is fairly straightforward. Let's have a look. We've got our iron and sulphur which are balanced, and then oxygen aren't. Now because this is the most complicated one, let's start with this. So I've got 4 over here which is even, and I've got my odd number there. So if I were to double this compound, that would become 2, 4 plus 2, which would give me 6, and that will be balanced. So let's try that. So I'll put a 2 in front there. That also doubles my number of sodium, so that becomes balanced, and it doubles my number of hydrogen, so that becomes balanced. So you get your 1 mark for your reactants, 1 mark for your products. So effectively that's just taking the information out of the text, remembering that sodium hydroxide is NaOH, that gets you 2 out of 3, and then 1 mark for your balancing, which is doubling that. The hard part here is the fact that you've got oxygens all over the place and there's quite a few elements that you've got to deal with. Okay, on to question 2 then. So this one says chlorine. Now you need to remember that all the halogens are diatomic, so chlorine Cl2 is added to potassium iodide, which they give you, which is Ki, to form potassium chloride, which they also give you, KCl, and iodine. Again, it's a halogen, so it's diatomic, so it's I2. Now we count up. So this little 2 tells us we've got 2 chlorines. There's nothing at the bottom here, so we have 1 potassium and 1 iodine. On the right hand side I have 1 potassium and 1 chlorine and 2 iodines. So you'd get 1 mark for the left hand side, 1 mark for the right hand side, and then the third mark is for the balancing. So let's have a look. So in this case what I'd do is either choose the iodine or the chlorine, which are the ones that need doubling. I'm going to go with iodine to begin with, so I've got 2 over here and only 1 there, so the best bet is to put a 2 in front of the whole thing, which gives me 2 potassiums and 2 iodines, so I've got 2 all the way down this side. My iodines are now balanced. However, my chlorines and potassiums aren't. So I can go over to here and double that. That doubles my chlorine and my potassium, so everything is balanced, which gives me my third mark. And that is everything you need to know on this part. So if you did the challenge questions, we'll move on to that now. So what I've done is I've put the charges of the elements at the top. Now you need to be able to learn these. You need to know that magnesium's in group 2, loses 2 electrons, becomes Mg2+. Chlorine's in group 7, needs to gain 1 electron, becomes Cl-. Sodium's in group 1, needs to lose 1 electron, becomes Na+, and your hydroxide ions are just OH-, you just need to remember that. So this says displacement reaction between magnesium chloride and sodium hydroxide. So we'll start off with magnesium chloride. Now remember, what you need to do is remove the charges first of all, and then swap the number like that. So the number goes down there, so it becomes MgCl2. The next one is sodium hydroxide, so I've got Na+ and OH-. Now because both the charges are the same, you take them out and it just becomes NaOH. There are no numbers involved at all. In our displacement reactions, the endings swap around, so I'll have magnesium hydroxide and sodium chloride. So what I need to do is take my magnesium and hydroxide ions, do the same again, remove the charge, swap the number around, and because it's a compound ion I put it in a bracket, and then that leaves me with sodium chloride, which is Na+ and Cl-, so that becomes NaCl because the charges are the same. Then you need to actually count up how much you've got. So I've got 1 magnesium and 2 chlorines, 1 sodium, 1 oxygen and 1 hydrogen on my left hand side, 1 magnesium, 1 chlorine, 1 sodium, 2 oxygens and 2 hydrogens. We then need to balance it, so choose one. So I'm going to choose NaOH because I've got 2 oxygens and 2 hydrogens on the right, and I've only got 1 on the left. So if I double that, that gives me 2 oxygens, 2 hydrogens, so those 2 are balanced, but makes my sodium uneven and my chlorine uneven. And you can see over here, both of those together, I've got NaCl with I've got 1 of each. So if I double that, these both become doubled and it becomes balanced, which gets me my third mark. So 1 for the reactants, 1 for the products, and 1 for my balancing. Right, that leaves us with 1 question left then, and this one is: fluorine is added to potassium chloride KCl. Write the balanced equation for the displacement reaction. Remembering fluorine is a halogen, so it's F2. Potassium chloride they give you as KCl, and then it's a case of displacement, so they swap round. So the formula stays the same, so in this case it'll be Kf, and then chlorine, which becomes on its own diatomic, so Cl2. You then need to count up either side, so I've got 2 fluorines, 1 potassium and 1 chlorine on the left, and then on the right 1 potassium, 1 fluorine and 2 chlorines. Then choose one to balance. It doesn't matter which one you go with first. I've gone with the potassium chloride, so by doubling that I've got 2 of each on this side. My chlorine's now balanced, however my potassium and my fluorine isn't, so all I need to do is add a 2 there, and that balances everything. And that gets me my third mark for my balanced equation. Okay, that about ends this video. So we've got a couple of review questions then, based on how confident you're feeling. So we've got 2 normal ones and 1 challenge one. Let's see how you can do. Lithium sulphate Li2SO4 reacts with sodium hydroxide to produce lithium hydroxide and sodium sulphate Na2SO4. Write the balanced equation for this reaction. And then question 2 is: bromine is added to potassium iodide Ki to form potassium bromide KBr and iodine. Write the balanced equation for the displacement reaction. And if you fancy the challenge one, it says write the balanced equation for the displacement reaction between zinc 2-sulphate and sodium hydroxide. And my hint for you there is that the sulphate ion is SO4 2-, which is one that you need to learn. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click on the subscribe button down below, visit the website, and you can find me on Facebook and Twitter.